Chosen one, before we go anywhere, let your body be still for just a moment. Whatever you brought with you into this, the tightness sitting low in the chest, the weight in the shoulders that has been there so long you stopped noticing it, the quiet question that keeps returning no matter how many times you redirect it, let it be here. You do not have to fix it before you receive this. Because I want to say something directly. The people around you have gotten you wrong. Not out of cruelty. Not because they do not care, but because what is happening in you is operating at a level they were not given access to. They are looking at your life right now, and they are drawing conclusions from what they can see. The delay, the quiet, the staying in the same place, and what they cannot see is what it has cost you to stay. What has been built in the staying? What was decided about you while you were holding on and no one was watching? God does not grade on what is visible from the outside. Joseph's brothers looked at the pit and they called it the end. They had no idea it was the beginning of the palace. David's own father did not even call him in from the field when the prophet arrived. His own father had already formed an opinion about which son mattered before the anointing ever came. The pattern is ancient. The ones being prepared for something that would change things could not be understood by the people standing closest to them during the preparation. Not because those people were cruel, because the formation was happening below the level of ordinary observation. You are inside that pattern. And the verdict has already come in. God said you passed, chosen one. Before today, before you felt like it, long before the people around you understood what they were watching. Stay here. This is going to change what you believe about your own story. Now, before we go deeper, I want you to know what is in this for you if you stay until the end. You will understand why the people who love you cannot see what is happening, and why that silence is actually not evidence against you. You will receive 5 identity declarations that belong to you, ones that do not require anyone else to confirm them. And you will leave with a real framework for living from divine approval instead of spending your life waiting for human validation. That is what is here today. Stay with this. Now, let us talk about the test. Because here is the first thing I need you to understand. You are not imagining it. There is a real test. There is a real pressure. There is something you have been carrying that was not light, and was not short, and was not what you expected when you signed up for the life you are trying to build. And the first temptation in this kind of content is to skip past that, to rush to the good news before sitting long enough in the reality of what this has actually cost you. I am not going to do that. Think about the moment. You know the one. It is not a crisis, exactly. It is not a single dramatic event you can point to on a calendar. It is more like a long, grinding season where the gap between who you know yourself to be on the inside and who the people around you seem to think you are keeps widening, slowly, quietly, in a way that is hard to name, and you have kept going. That is the part nobody talks about. You did not fall apart. You kept showing up for things you should have had permission to skip. You kept your hands on something when every external signal was telling you to let go. That is not nothing, that is everything. And here is what that kind of season does to a person, not what it looks like from the outside, but what it actually does on the inside. The first thing you start to notice is that the things that used to satisfy you no longer do. The conversations that used to be enough feel shallow now. The goals that used to feel exciting feel hollow. And you do not know exactly why, you just know something has shifted, like the ground underneath you is different than it was, even if you cannot explain how. The second thing is that you start seeing deeper than the people around you, and you do not have language for it yet. You pick up on things before they are said. You sense what is underneath what someone shows you. You feel the energy of a room, a decision, a relationship, and you cannot always explain the knowing, you just know. And that gap between what you perceive and what the people around you can perceive becomes one of the loneliest parts of this season. The third thing is that certain relationships start feeling different. People you have known for years start to feel like they are pulling from you in a direction that does not match where something inside you is trying to go. And you feel guilty about noticing. You tell yourself you are being difficult, but the friction is real, and it has a reason. The fourth thing, and this one is harder to name, is that you feel like you are being prepared for something, but you cannot see what it is yet. Like standing in a room where someone just moved all the furniture in the dark. You keep reaching for where things used to be and finding empty air. Something is changing around you and inside you at the same time, and nobody around you seems to notice. And the fifth thing, this is the one that tends to stay quietest. You carry a feeling that you were meant for more than what your current circumstances suggest. Not arrogance, not comparison, just a deep interior knowing that there is a version of your life that is truer than the one you are living right now, and the gap between those two versions is the source of the heaviest part of the weight. These are not random symptoms, these are the signs of formation pressure. Think of coal becoming a diamond. Not as a metaphor for suffering, as a description of a mechanism. The pressure does not create the diamond. The pressure reveals what was always inside the carbon. It forces what was hidden to take its true form. The pressure is not the enemy. The pressure is the process. And you have been inside that process longer than you think. But here is what I want you to know before we go any further. This alone, understanding that the test is real and that the pressure has a purpose, this alone would be enough to shift something. But it is only the first layer of what I want to show you today. Because the test being real still does not answer the deeper question, what is the test actually for? Because most people assume they know, and most people have it wrong. That is where we are going next. Here is what I want you to understand about the purpose of the test, and I want to say this carefully, because there is a version of this teaching that gets told in a way that oversimplifies it, and I do not want to do that to you. The test is not designed to prove yourself to God. That is the version most people have absorbed, quietly, without realizing it, the idea that there is some cosmic scoreboard and you are accumulating enough points to finally deserve the thing you have been waiting for. That framing is not only exhausting, it is also wrong. And it has caused a lot of damage to a lot of people who were already tired. The test is about something different. It is about the stripping of a false identity so that the real one can function. Think about David, not the version you already know, the king, the warrior, the psalm writer. Think about David before any of that. Think about him in the field, every day, while his brothers were inside the house. Think about his father, Jesse, on the day the prophet Samuel arrived. Samuel comes to Jesse's home specifically to anoint the next king of Israel. Jesse calls every son in to stand before the prophet. Everyone except David. His own father did not include him, not by accident. Jesse had already decided, in whatever quiet way fathers decide these things, that David was not the one. He left him in the field with the sheep. Samuel looked at the brothers, tall, impressive, every external marker of significance, and God said, "Not this one, not this one, not this one." And when Samuel asked Jesse if these were all his sons, Jesse had to admit, "Well, there is the youngest. He is out with the sheep." And Samuel said, "Send for him. We will not sit down until he arrives." That is the structure of what you are in. The people around you have conducted their evaluation based on what they can see, and they have formed their conclusions. And those conclusions do not match what is written about you in the place where the real record is kept. What was being built in David during those years in the field was not his reputation. His reputation was actually terrible, overlooked, dismissed, not even worth calling in from the field. What was being built was his interior, the character, the intimacy with God that no one could witness because it happened in private. The courage that would one day walk toward a giant while trained soldiers ran the other way. None of that was visible from outside the field. None of it made the observation list of the people who were supposed to know him best. You are not behind David's timeline. You are in David's season. Now, I want to tell you something practical, because this is not only a spiritual reality, it is also a neurological one. And I say this not to pull you out of the sacred dimension of what we are talking about, but to show you that the two are not separate. What God puts in you and what science can observe in you are pointing at the same thing. There is a brainwave called gamma. Neuroscientists at MIT, Harvard, Stanford researchers who have spent decades studying the human brain describe gamma as the highest functioning brainwave we have access to. It is the frequency associated with deep intuition, with the kind of clarity that comes before a breakthrough, with the experience of things suddenly connecting in ways you could not have forced or manufactured. When gamma is active, the brain is not just thinking, it is perceiving at a different level. Children have gamma naturally, abundantly, and then, as research consistently shows, something called the decline effect begins. The pressures of the modern world, the way education is structured, the pace of adult life, the constant noise begin to suppress gamma, slowly, from around age 7 onward. By the time most people are adults, they are operating with access to only a fraction of the brainwave God placed in them. That intuition you have been feeling, the knowing you cannot always explain, the depth of perception that separates you from the people around you, it is not imagination, it is gamma, and it is trying to come back online. A neuroscientist named Dr. Robert Lake spent 34 years developing something that I think belongs in this conversation. Not as a magic solution, and I want to be clear about that. I am not offering you a promise. I am pointing you toward a tool. He developed a 7-minute audio track that uses brain entrainment technology to help the brain return to gamma frequencies, the God-given brainwave that the modern world has been suppressing in you since childhood. It is not meditation. It is not a spiritual practice. It is science supporting the access to something that was always yours. Over 18,000 people have used it. The link is in the description and the pinned comment for anyone who feels called to explore it. And now back to where we are. Because I told you the test was about stripping a false identity so the real one could function. And I told you about David in the field. But I have not yet told you why the people closest to you cannot see any of this. And that is the question underneath all of this, is it not? Not just why you are going through it, but why you are going through it alone. Why the people who are supposed to know you best seem to be the least equipped to understand what is happening. That answer is deeper than you think, and it is the answer that is going to change everything. We are going there next. Why cannot the people closest to you see what is happening? It is the question you have been carrying without a clean answer. And I want to give you one, not a comfort answer, not a philosophical dodge, but the real structural reason. Because when you understand this, it does not just ease the loneliness, it actually changes what the loneliness means. Here is the truth. Formation at this depth was never designed to be visible from the outside. Not as a cruel irony, not as an accident. By design. Think about what formation actually is. It is not the accumulation of visible achievement. It is not the kind of growth that shows up in a highlight reel. It is the slow interior building of something that cannot be rushed and cannot be performed. Character, discernment, unshakable trust, the capacity to carry weight that would crush a person who had not been formed for it. And the nature of that kind of growth is that it happens underground. It happens in the hidden places. The seed does not break through the surface while it is still becoming a root system. The root system comes first, in the dark, and nobody gets to watch that part. The people around you are watching for surface signs. They are looking for evidence of movement in the dimensions they can see: income, relationships, position, status, external markers of progress. And because those things are not yet reflecting the full picture of what is happening in you, they have drawn their conclusions. They have been kind, some of them, others have not. But all of them have done the same thing. They have read the outside and called it the whole story. They cannot help it. It is the only information available to them. Now I want to go back to Joseph. Not the Joseph in the palace, the Joseph in the pit, and then in the prison, and in all the years between the promise and the fulfillment. Because here is what I think we miss when we tell that story quickly. Joseph was 17 years old when he received a dream, a vision of his future, a glimpse of the calling over his life. And then, almost immediately, everything that could go wrong did go wrong. His brothers, the people who were supposed to be his closest community, were so threatened by what they sensed in him that they stripped him of the coat, the visible symbol of his identity, threw him in a pit, sold him into slavery, and told their father he was dead. They had no idea what they were doing. Not in a naive way. In the specific, structural way that people who cannot perceive the divine dimension of someone's life will always misread the evidence in front of them. In Egypt, Joseph works faithfully and is falsely accused and imprisoned. And here is the detail I want you to sit with. In prison, Joseph accurately interprets the dream of the chief cupbearer. He says, "Please remember me when you get out. Please speak to Pharaoh on my behalf." And the cupbearer is released, exactly as Joseph interpreted, and immediately forgot him. 2 more years in prison. 2 more years after a clear sign that his gift was real and his interpretation was accurate. The people closest to him at every stage, his brothers, his master's household, the cupbearer, every single person who had the opportunity to see Joseph clearly, to speak up for him, to recognize what was standing in front of them, all of them either missed it or abandoned it. And not one of those failures was the end of the story. Every single moment that looked like betrayal turned out to be a coordinate on a map that Joseph could not read at the time. When Pharaoh eventually calls for Joseph, and Joseph stands before the most powerful man in the world and interprets the dream no one else could interpret, Joseph is 30 years old, 13 years after the dream. 13 years of the people around him having absolutely no idea. That is your pattern, chosen one. Now, I want to be honest with you, because I think you deserve that. I am not telling you your timeline is 13 years. I am not telling you I know exactly what comes next, or when. What I am saying is that the principle underneath Joseph's story is the principle underneath yours. The people who surround the formation process are almost never the ones who can interpret it while it is happening, and their inability to see it is not a verdict. It is a structural reality of how this kind of preparation works. But here is where it gets personal. Because the misunderstanding of people around us is painful, that part is real, and I am not going to minimize it. But there is something underneath the pain of being misunderstood that is worth looking at directly. Most of us, if we are honest, have been outsourcing our sense of reality to the people who cannot see the full picture. We have been waiting quietly, desperately for someone in our immediate life to confirm what we feel inside before we fully believe it. And when that confirmation does not come, we begin to doubt. Not loudly, quietly. In the place where you decide how much of yourself to give to what you believe you are called to. That is the real obstacle in this season, not the delay, not the misunderstanding, the belief sitting underneath everything that you need the people around you to understand in order for it to be real. You do not. Let me give you something practical here, not to add a task to your day, but to change something in the interior. The next time you feel the weight of being unseen, instead of waiting for someone around you to say the right thing, do this. Bring your attention to the center of your chest and ask one question. Not to anyone around you. Ask it upward or inward to the source that already knows the full account. Ask, what do you say about me right now? And then be still enough to receive something. It will not always come in words. Sometimes it comes as a settling, a quieting of the noise, a knowing that something larger than your circumstances is still present and still in motion. That practice of returning to the divine record instead of the human one that is not just spiritual. It is survival for the season you are in. And now I want to bring everything together, because we have talked about the test, and we have talked about its purpose, and we have talked about why the people around you cannot see it. But all of that was building towards something. All three of those truths were pointing at a fourth truth, the one that makes everything snap into place. Here it is. You have already passed. Not will pass. Not might pass if you hold on a little longer and make fewer mistakes and finally earn the grace that has been just out of reach. Already passed. The accounting has been done. The record has been reviewed, and the record does not read what you have been afraid it might. It does not say, still trying. It does not say, not yet. It says, faithful. It says, formed. It says, past. And I want to unpack that word for a moment, because I think we hear it too simply. To pass a test the way we understand it means you scored high enough, you got enough answers right, you did not make too many mistakes. But that is not the register in which God grades. God is not grading your performance. God is grading your interior, your character, your trust, your faithfulness in the moments when staying cost you something real. And by that measure, something has been completed in you. Something has been certified. Not because you were perfect, because you were present, you stayed, you held, you kept going when the evidence was against you, and that is what was being assessed. There is also something in the word itself, to pass through. In many of the oldest texts that speak about divine seasons, the language of passing is not about a test you take and then you are done. It is about being carried through something, traversed, brought out the other side intact. You have been carried through something that was meant to break you. And the fact that you are here, still holding, still oriented toward what you believe is true about your life, that is not despite the pressure, that is because of it. You are not behind, you are not failing, you are not someone to whom this kind of thing does not happen. You are someone who has been inside the formation, and the formation is doing exactly what it was designed to do. And now I want to speak directly to who you are, not who you might become. Who you are. You are a truth carrier. That means you carry a kind of clarity that is meant to cut through confusion, not by being loud about it, but by being so rooted in what is real that the noise around you eventually has to yield to it. You cannot live inauthentically for long. You never could. That is not a flaw. That is the nature of what you carry. You are a spiritual warrior, not in the performance sense, in the staying sense. A warrior does not hold the line because it is comfortable. A warrior holds the line because something on the other side is worth protecting. You have been holding the line on what you believe about your life, your calling, your value, and you have done it in the dark, without applause, for longer than most people would have lasted. That is a warrior. You are a seer. You perceive things before they are said. You feel what is underneath the surface of a conversation, a relationship, a situation. That gift has sometimes felt like a burden in this season, knowing things you cannot prove, sensing things you cannot explain. But the seer does not choose what they see. They develop the discipline to use what they see with wisdom, and that is what this season has been building. You are a cycle breaker. There are patterns in your family, in the lineage of your story, that were not supposed to continue through you. That is why this season has involved more friction than most people around you have experienced. You are not just living your own life, you are rewriting something. The resistance you have felt is proportional to the weight of what you are ending. And you are a wounded healer. The thing that has broken in you, the places that have been pressed until they cracked open, those are not damage. Those are the precise locations from which your capacity to reach other people will come. You will not help people from a position of having been untouched. You will help them from the specific coordinates of what you have walked through, and they will know the difference. Now, one last thing before we close. The last resistance is not going to come from outside you. It is going to come from inside. A voice that says, this is a nice thing to hear, but it is probably not really about me. I am not sure I am the kind of person this applies to. I have made too many mistakes. I have taken too long. I am not what they are describing. That voice is not wisdom. That voice is the thing that was supposed to be stripped away in the formation. And you are allowed to let it go now. Not by fighting it, by simply not giving it the deciding vote anymore. The divine record has been reviewed, the account is in, and it does not agree with that voice. Now, let us do something together. Source of all things of this season, of this journey, of every night that stretched past what felt sustainable, and every morning that came anyway, we give thanks. Not for the easy parts, for the ones that cost something, for the wilderness that did what wilderness is designed to do, for the hiddenness that kept what was being built, protected until it was ready, for the faithfulness that continued in the dark when no one was watching. We are grateful. We are here. You see, every weight that was carried in this season, every question held in the long hours of the night, every moment of choosing to stay when leaving would have been easier. Every act of faithfulness that never made it into anyone's highlight reel, you saw it, you counted it. None of it was invisible to you. And now we release. We release the need for the people around us to understand before we believe. Release. We release the story that the delay means the denial. Release. We release the comparison, the measuring of our hidden interior process against someone else's visible exterior result. Release. We release every verdict written over our name by someone who did not have access to the full record. Release. We release the voice that says, we are the exception to the pattern, the one to whom this does not apply, the one who has to earn what has already been freely given. Release. We release the exhaustion of waiting for permission from the wrong source. Release. We release every old ceiling that was installed by someone else's limitation, not our own. Release. Now we activate. We call forth the truth carrier, full, unashamed, rooted in what is real, even when the noise says otherwise. We call forth the spiritual warrior holding the line, protecting what is being built, refusing to collapse at the threshold. We call forth the seer, perceiving clearly, using wisdom, no longer apologizing for what is known. We call forth the cycle breaker, ending what was never supposed to continue, opening a new lineage, writing a new story. We call forth the wounded healer, using the precise coordinates of every broken place to reach people who could not be reached any other way. We activate the divine connections that match the level being built. We open the doors that have been held closed by the belief of unworthiness. They open now. We place a guard over what is being formed, over what is rising, over every new thing that is still fragile enough to be wounded by premature exposure. What has been built in the hidden places, let it rise in its own time, in its own strength, protected from the hands that would mishandle it before it is ready. And now we declare, I am the truth carrier. I am the spiritual warrior. I am the seer. I am the cycle breaker. I am the wounded healer. I have already passed. God sees the full record, not the edited version, not the highlights, the full account, every cost, every faithfulness, every night of holding on. That is what was graded, and it has been found worthy. I live from that record now, not from what is visible yet, not from what the people around me can see, from what has already been written about me in the place where the real truth is kept. It is done. It is sealed. We receive it. Amen. Take a breath. You did something today that matters. You stayed long enough to hear what has been true about you for longer than you realized. And I want you to do one thing before you go. Type the word past in the comments right now. Not as a performance, as a declaration. Someone else who needs to see that word today will scroll through those comments, and your declaration will reach them. Let it. If someone in your life is in this season, someone who is holding on alone, someone who is doing everything right and still feeling invisible, send this to them. You do not need to explain it. Just send it. They will know why. For those who felt called by the conversation about the gamma brainwave, the God-given frequency that the modern world has been suppressing, the link to Dr. Robert Lake's 7-minute audio is in the description and the pinned comment. It is there for anyone who wants it. Chosen one, you passed. Go live like it.